JK,
Hey,
that was on loop.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking into the pit stop. I'm Will.
And I'm James. This is our recap for episode 4. The days keep rocking here in Vietnam. And we are so excited about this recap. I feel like I say that every week, but I'm just so excited about this one in particular because we're joined by two of our very dear friends. Of course, they're Amazing Race alumni, but we've known them for years, even before we were on Amazing Race. So I have like fun little intros for each of them just because I feel like they've earned it. They've deserved that. So our first guest is two-time Amazing Racer and finalist, securing a remarkable third place finish on season 28 and an impressive second place on season 31. Korey, alongside with his partner Tyler, hold an esteemed franchise record, tying with Colin and Christy for the most legs won by a team in their Amazing Race career, which is a total of 9 leg wins. But those accolades don't stop there because Korey and Tyler also achieved the highest placing average of any LGBTQ plus team in Amazing Race US with an impressive average of 2.42. So without further ado, let's welcome Korey.
Oh my God. That was so nice to hear about myself.
I'm so excited to have you, Korey. How are you?
I'm well. I'm so excited to be here and recap this episode. You know, I've been an Amazing Race stan forever before we were on the show. So always watching, always ready to discuss.
Yes. And then our next guest is nothing short of a reality TV legend, having conquered numerous challenges on shows like Celebrity Fear Factor, Snake in the Grass, and of course, The Traitors. She's also a Big Brother champion and 3-time Amazing Racer, where she and her husband, Brendan, left their mark by finishing third on both of their appearances. And what's even more remarkable about that is they were the first team to complete all legs of the race on 2 separate seasons. But the excitement doesn't stop there because she returned for a 3rd time on season 31 with her sister Alyssa and breaking records for the most legs raced in the history of the show. So welcome, Rachel Reilly.
Oh my God, thank you. Hi. Yeah, you might as well just call this the Legends Hour.
How are you, Rachel?
I'm so good. I mean, that was so nice. I love that introduction. Thank you. And now also I learned so much about Korey. I really didn't realize that. Also, Korey, I didn't know you and you guys tied with Colin and Christy. That's so crazy.
Yeah, we did it first, technically, but
That's impressive.
That's so many Travelocity prizes, no?
That is, right?
Their 9th win was for $1 million, so I guess they did it better. But
Oh my goodness! Well, have you guys
trips?
Oh yeah, have you taken all of them?
We took all of them after the first time, and then we lost some because of COVID the second time, which was a bummer. But we still won a lot and got a lot, so it was awesome.
Nice.
Hannah in the chat says, "Love the jacket, Rachel."
Happy birthday, Hannah Horn! Before we can even start this podcast.
Yes, it is Hannah's birthday. Happy birthday, Hannah! Well, like I've already said, we're so excited to have you both on the Pit Stop recap with us and to talk about the latest episode. But before we really dive into this episode, there's been 4 so far. So I'm curious to know, who are the standout teams to y'all as of right now?
I mean, I like the sisters because they're fun.
And they went for the bug so early. It was amazing.
That was pretty epic. I always wonder. I think I would, but I do have to ask myself if I would eat all those bugs. 'Cause I've never, in all the shows, even Fear Factor, have had to eat a bug. And I always think in my head, like, when it comes down to it, would I? I don't know. Oh yeah, let's get Korey on the challenge. That is the best.
I'm in.
Hi, Lewis. Hey, Michelle, and also hi, Todd and Ashley. Korey, who's standing out to you right now in the race?
I definitely agree with Rachel of loving the sisters. I love Rob and Korey. Also, it's like namesake, so I've got to root for Korey as the fellow Korey. I was like DMing with him, and I'm like, every US Tyler that's raced on The Amazing Race has made the final 3. And I'm like, so I feel like he dragged me to the end. But if Korey makes it to the final 3, then I'm like, every Korey's made it to the final 3 too.
Yes.
I also loved your tweet a while ago where you were like, it's so uncanny how like two Koreys are on The Amazing Race and they're both really good looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great teams. Those are great teams. I think Rob and Korey have been the most consistent, I would say, of the four episodes we've seen. They've been in the top 5, I would say, the most out of any other team. And then, of course, Morgan and Lena, I mean, they started off the race very strong by going for the express pass, which I thought was an incredible move. Whether or not they played the express pass correctly, that's debatable, but we'll talk about that later in the recap. So starting this episode off, obviously teams keep on racing through Vietnam, and they have to travel by taxi to Cafe, I'm going to butcher this, Cafe to Diek, and ask for their next clue. We have Steve and Annalie in first, followed by Joel and Garrett, Rob and Korey, Todd and Ashley, Robin and Chelsea, Morgan and Lena, Joe and Ian, Greg and John, Andrea and Milena, Jocelyn and Victor, and of course, Liam and Yeremy. And as Phil said, dead last. But based on the times, they're really not dead last when they're only 2 minutes apart from Jocelyn and Victor. I was like, damn, Phil. What do you guys think about the Keep On Racing leg? I know there's a lot of debate whether it's 2 separate legs or if it's one giant leg. What do you guys think about Keep On Racing?
I love the Keep On Racing legs because I feel like it makes the people push farther. And like, I remember when I never did a Keep On Racing, but when we do our legs, we stop, we go do a pit stop, you do sleep, whatever. Keep On Racing legs, that really tests you because they have to be exhausted. They just did a full thing and now they're going to do a full another thing. Also, I have to say before, because we are still in Vietnam, I need Korey to sing karaoke for us.
So, Rachel, I passed on that part of that roadblock when we were there, and I would pass on it again.
I did it and I don't remember the lyrics, or I would have done it. But I do remember
young yow, young yow,
Yes!
young yow.
Yes, that's right.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever
that.
laughed
It's
so
amazing.
hard
I
watching
saw
it.
that too, and I was like, Tyler is singing. I'm not.
Yeah, it
doing
was so fun.
it.
that
It's
was a fun, like,
hysterical.
Vietnam is a fun place.
Yeah.
What do you think about Keep On Racing, Korey?
It's interesting. Like, I feel like it's really semantics about like, is it a non-elim? Is it a Keep On Racing? I agree with Rachel because it like adds the stress. We had to Keep On Racing in 28, and definitely it turns into a long day. It turns into like the stakes and the pressure keeps building and building. As far as season 35 goes, I kind of liked the surprise of it because when they said at the start of the season there were no non-elims, I really thought a team was going home every episode. So
Yeah.
whether or not they call it a Keep On Racing or not a limb, I'm like, it was a surprise to me. So
Yeah.
I was excited to at least see a twist.
Yeah. Rachel, I don't think I realized you never had a Keep On Racing.
Never, I mean, unless someone corrects me if I'm wrong. I just don't remember ever doing a Keep On Racing because season 20 and 24, we never had one. And then we never had one on the season 31 either that we were in.
Yeah, I don't think there was a Keep On Racing in 31.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, we only had one on our season, and it was the very
leg.
first leg.
Yeah.
So it
Somebody
really set the
went
tone.
home.
Yes, someone did go home.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's very exhausting.
our Keep On Racing in 28 was really like Keep On Racing, and it was like JK 2-hour pause for a lunch real quick.
Oh,
then
yeah.
you keep racing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is just like, it's like the mega leg too. We had an
Yeah.
hour like.
I took the free lunch. I was like, yeah, I'll eat. I'll wait.
Yeah. Yeah, it was also fun on our season with Keep On Racing because we were all kind of like in a holding room in Tobago, and like we would see the teams come in one by one. And when it got down to like the football players and Nathan and Cody, everyone's sitting there like, please be Gary and D'Angelo, because we wanted the football players to go first. But then they turned the corner and Nathan and Cody never came, and we're like, oh wow, they really eliminated someone on a Keep On Racing. So yeah, it was a nice surprise
We
with
didn't
this
think somebody
season.
was going home.
Yeah, it was a nice surprise on this season too, though, because I feel like we got a lot more of a backstory with Liam and Yeremy, so I'm glad that they weren't eliminated last episode. So it was a nice surprise, especially when they've been saying, no, not eliminations. But
Yeah.
I feel like that's technically a non-elimination. With this detour, teams had a choice between stand or deliver. In stand, teams had to carry seafood through a market to a stall and set up the stall so that it matched a vendor's in order to receive their next clue. And then in deliver, teams had to carry a 466-pound mattress to a hotel in order to receive their next clue. So Rachel, because you did the race recently with your sister, let's pretend like you and Alyssa are on this season. When you guys get to this detour, what would be your thought process in choosing either stand or deliver? And what do you think you and Alyssa would have chosen?
Okay, so Alyssa and I would have definitely done stand because there's no way we're carrying a 66-pound mattress up 4 times and all those stairs and everything not happening. I mean, I've always liked to do the physical ones, but if I had Brendan, it would be totally different than if it's me and my sister, you know? And so I just feel like I would have put it on top of my head. I think that's the right strategy, but like, I don't think I could have, I don't know. I mean, we would have done it, but I think we would have been a lot more slow. Whereas I feel like setting up the stand was the quicker one anyways, because it put the team in first. And well, I mean, if, you know, they like got out before, but I think it was like quicker. I think it was probably the better challenge.
What about you, Korey? If you and Tyler were on this season, which detour do you think you guys would have chosen?
We would have been carrying those mattresses. I would have made him carry 2 at a time. I'm that person who goes to the grocery store and comes back with like 8 bags and is like, no, I'm making this a one trip sort of situation from the car to the door. And we would have done mattresses. And for the first 2, I would have bullied him into at least carrying 2 at a time and then assessed after the drop off.
Well, where do you think we would have stood on this detour? I feel like we both would have the same answer on this.
I think we would have done the stand. I think when it's like a very detail oriented where it's just like do one and then go to the next one, I think that's a little more monotonous and feels easier. I think the mattresses, I would have been worried that a future challenge on the leg would have also been physical, and I wouldn't want to be like dead tired. Right. Carrying all those mattresses. But if we did the mattresses, I also would have made James carry 2.
Oh, I would have done everything I could to try to carry 2. Are you kidding me?
We're like carrying all 4.
Liam and Yeremy beasted this detour, especially from being in dead last. They really crushed it, and they like had no problems carrying 2 mattresses all that way. I agree. I think we would have chosen stand, but I think the biggest kicker with the stand was the red bucket. We saw Anna Lee and Steve were struggling at first with the red bucket in the front of their market stand. I feel like that would have been a detail we might have overlooked.
Especially leg 4. I feel like you're still figuring out how to race and how much detail is associated with challenges. I feel like if it was like 8, I don't think people would have not picked up on it. But I think leg 4, I think people are still figuring it out.
Yeah, because it's like a learning curve with those little details. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the mattress one though, it felt pretty straightforward. I just think I would have been too gassed at the end of that, where it would have just been a lot. Let's talk about Joel and Garrett for a minute in this detour, because Joel was saying that they had a little bit of a strategy in their approach to this because all the other teams had shown up. And so they kind of did a little throwback to episode 1 with Todd at the very first roadblock in Los Angeles saying, you know, Todd offered some information to move to the front of the line. So they felt like they were going to take a play out of Todd and Ashley's playbook and do the same thing by let us get the mattress off the truck first and you guys can follow us essentially to the hotel. I don't know about y'all, but I just don't feel like that's equivalent in terms of the strategy because like in the first leg, they're trying to race to get on the first flight. This one, you're pretty much just letting people follow you to a hotel. I would have let them take the mattress off and try to figure it out on their own and then kind of like found a way to the hotel without the other team seeing us. But what do you guys think? Was this like good strategy necessarily?
I mean, they had to do it because anyone would have like taken it. They would have followed them anyways. They already knew they had done 2. So it wouldn't matter in that situation because the 2 teams were so close. They were all there at the same time, the 3. So the 2 that didn't know would have followed them, right? I mean, I would have. if I was hosting.
I completely agree. It's like, even if they took another minute to unload the mattresses, those two teams, I think, are smart enough to stand there and be like, well, we're just going to follow you.
Now, I'm sure it would have been like logistically a lot to plan, but I do wish they almost had to deliver to different hotels to prevent that, because I do think it made that side of the detour not as challenging besides the physicality of it. I mean, like there's been delivery challenges in the past on The Amazing Race where teams had to deliver to separate addresses. And I almost think that that was the design flaw for this detour personally, because following each other in line to the hotel didn't really make it that exciting. That's just how I felt. But again, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't know. I loved the clip of Phil introducing the package and how busy the road was. And then I don't know, it didn't feel super busy as a viewer. It was still looked like a pain in the butt, but I wanted
I like this comment right here, like where it says, the one that you just put on the screen, because even if their strategy, like, oh, we're trying to like, you know, help the teams, I think it does benefit them in the long term, because if they even if they're gonna follow me, maybe I just tell them that I'll help them to where they build that sense of like trust, where you won't U-turn me or do anything to like hinder my performance.
And that goes to say that like a lot of viewers, I think, don't equate Amazing Race to being like a social game like Big Brother or Survivor, but I feel like it very much is, because there's advantages in the race where you can screw over other teams, like a U-turn. Our season had yields, and I feel like building that camaraderie or kind of being on a good playing field with other teams socially is what might prevent you from being U-turned in the long term. So I feel like that is a good point, is like it does create a little bit of a sense that like, okay, well, they helped us. Like, I don't feel comfortable U-turning them down the line, especially because I mean, the theory is this season that it's a U-turn vote. I mean, well, that's what Phil said at the starting line.
Yeah,
I mean, because it is a U-turn vote, don't give a reason to piss each other off.
Exactly. And that U-turn vote is crazy. We had to vote twice for that thing because we couldn't really come up with a, like everyone voting for the same team. So it's like, for me, that is a big deal because you never know if there'll be a U-turn vote. And then also the pass that Korey and Tyler had, I really wish that they would have given to us, that we could have dropped it on one of the teams. I won't mention which team, but, but they didn't use the pass. But in a situation like that, they were allowed to give it to another team to let the other team use it. So there's a lot of advantages to being social on Amazing Race.
Agreed. I want to talk about Liam and Yeremy again, just because I feel like this was kind of their episode. I think they were really a standout team for me. Usually I feel like in the past, if a team's in last and it's a keep on racing, sometimes they feel defeated. I mean, we saw in episode 3 when Jocelyn was left at the Detour, they were like, we're the last team here. And they kind of already had like a little bit of a defeated attitude. Whereas like Liam and Yeremy had no idea they were in last place, got to the pit stop, and then they were like, okay, they found like a new light, a new hope. And that's why I think they really kind of beasted this Detour by carrying 2 mattresses at a time and made up so much time. What do you guys think of Liam and Yeremy? Because I just feel like we got to know them a lot more this episode.
Yeah, I was telling you guys this before we started recording, but I felt like they got such a well-rounded edit this episode, and we learned so much about their relationship as brothers and what their childhood was growing up and the dynamic between the two. I was really worried because I was enjoying it. I thought for sure they were going home this episode because they were getting such a good like intro package. So I was really kind of surprised to see them then land in the middle of the pack, because I thought for sure this was like a swan song moment. We're finding out why they applied to be on the show, and they were kind of getting their farewell package. So now I'm like, oh, is this their momentum builder? Are they now going to like have a great trajectory toward the end of the show?
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. That's what I mean. I thought it was great too. And I liked getting to know them a little bit better. I think it's the thing about Amazing Race, you can never give up on yourself because you never know what place you're going to come in. And even if you get U-turned, even if you get like, I don't know, you're last, it doesn't matter. It's until Phil says you have to go home. That's when it matters. And trust me, I've had plenty of breakdowns in the middle of a lesson.
Amazing Race is supposed to be good and fun, Rachel.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, all the time. Yeah. Like even when I didn't need to have a breakdown.
Any other thoughts on this Detour?
No, but I feel like Liam and Yeremy are the perfect example of like keep on racing is going to make or break you.
Yeah.
Either you're going to rise to the occasion or you're going to crash and burn. And I think some of the teams may have crashed and burned a little bit, but I think they were like in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were great. Any last minute thoughts on this detour for this episode?
I was just going to say, I really thought the leg design for both of these Vietnam episodes have been incredible. I thought both detours and both Keep on Racing or the episodes were stressful as like a viewer. Like, know, as a former racer, those were tough detours on both sides for both episodes. So I really applaud them. I thought the leg design and the challenges the last 2 episodes have been great. And I really loved this detour. It felt quintessential Amazing Race. And it was fun. Both were interesting to watch. It was an even split between the teams choosing which side they were going to do. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think last episode and this episode so far have been the best, even more than the premiere in episode 2. And like you said, it is 100% because of the design of the leg, and it just the added stress as a viewer. Like last week with the boats and they had to deliver the fruit, it was just such chaos, and it was just all over the board. And I liked how the first 2 episodes, the placements are very linear, which can kind of be like a meh when you're watching. But like with the last 2, the placements have been pretty all over the board, which makes for an exciting episode because you really don't know how it's going to ultimately end. Beckett Fitz in the chat says, what did you guys make of the broken fingers remark? I don't know if you remember Ashley during the challenge. I was like, my fingers are broken. And then Todd's like, we got this. Just keep going.
I feel like I needed that when I was always complaining.
Ashley, if you're still watching, were your fingers really broken or was it just jammed? And then Michelle's asking, Ashley, how was your finger after you finally stopped the leg? Give us an update on your fingers.
The people want to know. Go ahead, Korey.
I was just going to say, those stairs were dangerous. Like, she hurt her finger. Korey fell down the stairs. Like, there was a lot in that little tiny hotel.
But I feel like the stairs was like the most challenging part of it because you have people going up and down. It seemed like Korey was like jumping over the other person's mattress to get down. That would have been the most stressful part if we did the mattress and not being able to get down.
I mean, look at Korey. Korey was literally shoving mattresses to the side to make room for him and his dad. Like that would have been, you have to be a little bit aggressive on the stairs, I feel like, just to get to go where you want to go.
And I need to know if Todd was quoting the Friends episode with
yes.
Pivot. That's what I was thinking. No, I would have been saying that the whole time.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Amazing Race fans in like the Facebook group and on Twitter referencing that moment from Friends, the pivot. So after this detour, teams had to go to Ong Pagoda and write a wish on a card before receiving their next clue, directing them to travel by taxi to their next destination. For this, this is one thing I really love about Amazing Race is to them showing moments like this, like just really tying it back to the culture, to different landmarks in the country that they're visiting. I love that it took the teams out of the race for a minute to really kind of appreciate the culture of where they're at and like take a moment to just really appreciate being on the show. And like, I loved how everyone just seemed really appreciative of this moment. But I felt bad with Jocelyn and Victor, especially with their wish of wanting to win the Amazing Race. And I'm like, is this going to set them up to potentially win the show? Are we going to be surprised after this leg? Or are they just, the editors just really savage and putting this in there and then they get eliminated? What did you guys think of this little route info?
Well, I thought that was like telling because Phil said it. One of these teams may wish they're going to win the Amazing Race. And I was like, okay, so they're all going to wish you and Phil, like, or you're going to show the teams that wish that have a storyline. I liked it. I love these things about Amazing Race too. It's always really cool when you get to go see the temples and the culture of this, you know, and you get to kind of take a minute because they're like walk and pause.
Yes.
And, yeah. And I love this, like when they do slow down the race because it forces you to slow down and then you get to enjoy things. Those are some of the moments we'll never forget, I think.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, it takes you out of the like hectic go mentality for a minute. And it's exactly like Rachel said, you're they definitely all got a clue that was like, don't run in there.
Yeah, of course.
Be respectful. But it also like even these side little mini task route info, it gives another opportunity for someone to get lost, for someone to get mixed up. So it's like I don't mind seeing it. I like that they build these layers into the race.
Yeah, and I especially feel like for a 90-minute episode, like having more of these little route info points in the race helps the episode. Because like I feel like last week and the week before when they were in Thailand and they had to do the lotus flower roadblock, that felt like the whole episode. Like it was just too long. So I like that we have these little extra route info moments. I didn't mean to cut you off, babe. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, you're fine. No, I talked to a friend at work the other day and they were watching the season, and the one thing that stood out to them of the entire episode was this part, the wish part. Just because they're like, I watched the show because you learn about different places around the world. And I thought that was really cool for somebody who's not like a super fan like we are, who watches it and they see these moments of just the culture and how special it is. Because we all know that the locals, when you're traveling, are way nicer than any American you'll ever meet in the US. And they don't get shown on the show, but I'm sure that all the people that they're meeting in Vietnam and interacting with have just been so warm and welcoming, just because that's like the era or the aura of the world.
Yeah. And on that point, there was actually an article posted on Collider that I think a fan wrote a few days ago about how The Amazing Race is really the most important reality TV show. And the 3 bullet points from that article said, The Amazing Race is more than just a reality series. It is a mesmerizing and educational travelogue that showcases the diverse customs and cultures of our planet. The show reminds us that despite the fracturing of our world, we are all on this adventure together, and understanding each other's journey is crucial to our success. And that The Amazing Race is a masterclass in anthropology, teaching viewers about different traditions and customs from around the world, while pivoting that reality TV can be both entertaining and enlightening. So I love hearing that. Yeah, right? But yeah, this is a fun little moment. And I like what you said, Rachel, about how it really forces the teams to slow down. Because especially on a keep on racing leg, I can't imagine how peaked their adrenaline had been up until that point. After making, go ahead, Pam.
No, I was just going to say, like, thinking back on previous seasons, moments like this, the one that stands out the most to me of any season was when they had to stop at Auschwitz and like take a minute and just like be there and be present. And I like
that was us.
It's something that's wild. That's like insane and so powerful. But it's a moment that stands out more than any challenge you'll ever see on the show.
Yeah, it felt like solemn. Like it felt, it was weird. And the way that the roadblock was like, appreciate it, pray, like whatever you have to do, or not the roadblock, the route marker or whatever. It was really interesting. It was really, that was crazy to me. And then Brendan was talking about it because that was, I think it was season 20, the first one I did. I think so. I'll have to Google it.
Another thing I wanted to point out with Joel and Garrett, they were like reading letters from home at one point during this episode. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm actually kind of surprised they were even allowed to bring letters from home on the race, because like I feel like they go through your bag so intensely to make sure you don't bring anything that could like, did like producers sit there and read those letters and be like, okay, there's no like anything in here that could be like beneficial to the race, so they got to keep them? I just thought that was really interesting that they got to bring letters from home.
I thought we got to bring letters from home, didn't we? I swear I had a letter from home that I got.
Maybe if you have kids, they might let you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I think on our first season, Sherry was a mom and had a bunch of kids, and I think she had a few little kind of like notes from her kids, or maybe they were just things they had like written into her backpack or something. But I vaguely remember she had stuff from her kids.
They read.
Yeah, I think I was always paranoid.
Like, they read it. They do. I remember them reading it and making sure it's not like, giving you any clues or anything. Yeah. But like, I do remember keeping letters and photos. I carried a photo around with me the whole time, the whole race.
Yeah, I feel when Will and I packed, I was so paranoid to bring anything that would be like a rule breaker. And then when we even brought like a journal, to write notes about every leg, and they literally went page to page through that journal to make sure nothing was written in it. But then the moment we got to our hotel room, we wrote everything down that we could remember in terms of different languages we had memorized. But they're like so thorough. So I mean, I thought it was a cute moment, especially with Joel wiping his tears with his beard. It was a really great little human moment and the Amazing Race, which I loved. Just a quick update before we talk about the roadblock from Ashley. Her fingers were black, blue, and swollen. It was a very jammed finger and thumb, which made it very hard to grip the mattress. Todd knew exactly what to say to tone down my dramatics. You balance each other out, Ashley.
Is this the real Todd and Ashley?
Yes, it is. It is. And then there was one more thing in the chat. I'm sure it'll pop up again. But
I thought Todd was great because that's me when I'm Ashley. I'm like, except Ashley like keeps going. I'm like, I break down and start crying, and then Brendan's like,
well, I loved this roadblock, and I loved how this is how the episode ended. And this roadblock, one team member had to search among thousands of tiles that adorn the temple grounds and find the one tile that matches the photograph and their clue before they could check in at the nearby pit stop. Anna Lee, Joel, Todd, Korey, Chelsea, Joe, John, Lena, Andrea, and Victor all completed this roadblock. And I feel like we've seen it before in the past where like the pit stop is within arm's length of a certain task. But this one in particular just felt brutal to me, especially because it was a keep on racing leg. And to have this kind of be like a needle in a haystack challenge, I would have been so overwhelmed. What did you guys think of this roadblock? And again, Rachel, if you and Alyssa were on the race, who of the two of you would have done it? And same for you, Tyler. Who of you and Tyler and Korey would have done it, Korey?
I mean, I loved it. I felt like I love these needle and haystacks because I'm really good at them. I can panic and then focus. Like, I don't know what it is about my method, but like, I think I would have done it with Alyssa, and I think I would have done it with Brendan also, because I really do. For some reason I can pick something out and I can just see it, and like I'm really good with the focusy things. Now, seeing all the other teams compete or like get it in front of me, that's what gets me. That's especially when you're like fighting for first. That's really what's stressful. But then when it's like, okay, I just have to find it. I'm not first. I could be second to like whatever place as long as you're not last. And when you're in the middle, it doesn't. I mean, it's like just do your thing, right?
Yeah, I think this roadblock was so cutthroat because it's exactly what you said. Like having Phil within sight of everybody who's there, and you just finished and keep on racing a non-elimination. So whoever's last is going home. There's no mystery to it. That was the big thing that really affected us, I think, when we raced, is each time we came off of a non-elim or a keep on racing, you're in that mindset where you're like, somebody's going home. So I thought it was brutal for sure, but I hope I would have chosen to do this one. I think either Tyler or I could have crushed it, but memory and like matching is one of my strengths. And I also think my endurance is a little better than Tyler's. So just being able to run up and down those rows and check, I would have hoped I would have done it. If it would have been really hard for me to stand and watch. I mean, I'm sure you guys know some of the roadblocks are really difficult to stand and watch your partner when you want to help them so badly. And if I wasn't doing this one, it would have been tough for me to watch and stand by.
Yeah, it's like what Morgan was saying, the analogy of like, it's like watching your teammate drowning and you can't actually help them. Like that was like the best way to really describe it. You can't do anything. You feel so helpless. Well, I feel like you would have ended up doing this roadblock. Not that I think I'm not capable. I think watching other teams get it before me is when I would have gotten in my head about it.
This is a challenge of patience. And I think that having the long day of 2 legs and then having this challenge, your patience is going to be tested, which I think is what happened with Victor. I have way better patience than I think James does. So
it's true.
I would do this one.
Yeah, this required a lot of patience. And I think I'm too ADHD that like I think I would have missed like one minor detail on the tile. But like I love what Reed said in the live chat. It was great seeing everyone think that they got it on their first try within seconds.
Oh,
like
yes.
the amount of teams that were like, I think I
Yes.
got it. And then it was
It's
like,
right there.
no.
Yes, that was good.
Wild.
It's
But
But I did
from
love
the toolbox.
because I'm a guess and checker. So I'm like, I will go and I'll just be like, it's definitely this one. Run back. No, okay, it's definitely this one. Whereas my other partners, Alyssa or Brendan, they're both like, especially Brendan, he has to have it right before he can go turn it in. I'm just like, let me try. Because I feel like you waste time when you're, and my strategy is always to just keep trying because you waste time if you're like trying to be too perfect because you have to just kind of be so quick in that game.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I there was something you just said that it just escaped my brain.
Being a guess and
This
checker.
is why you're not doing the challenge.
This is my ADHD.
Yeah.
This is a prime example why I would not be doing the challenge. Okay, let's talk about this little moment between Chelsea and Anna Lee at the roadblock. Obviously, Anna Lee is there pretty early. She also is kind of talking with Todd about trying to find tiles. She claims to have maybe seen Todd's tile, but she's not going to say anything, which brilliant strategy. I think at this type of challenge, you don't work with another team. There's just no reason to. You can't trust that someone's actually going to have your best interests in mind. But then later on during the roadblock, we see Anna Lee kind of talk with Chelsea about the tiles. And Chelsea kind of blows Anna Lee off a little bit. And then Anna Lee's upset about it and talks about Chelsea and her character. What did you all think about this moment between Anna Lee and Chelsea? Because it started off strong to me where I was like, Anna Lee, girl, you got the right head in terms of like not helping Todd. But now you're upset because it seems like Chelsea didn't want to help you. What's going on here, do you think?
You can dish it out, but you can't take it.
Yeah. I think that, and then I think sometimes when you're on that race, you feel like there are people that you would help, and then there are people that you don't want to help because you like, oh, well, they're too much of my competition. But yeah, I mean, Todd was cool and collected under that one. He did really good on that. But that's probably why she didn't want to help him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I'm
so
there.
they were racing. They weren't racing for like last. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like you have to think when you're what place you're racing for.
Yeah, the idea of like helping in this specific challenge, I was like, how does that work? There's no world where if somebody pointed mine out to me that I would feel super comfortable then spending another 10 minutes helping them try to find theirs. Or like even I think I would have a lot of mistrust that they would even be honest and tell me if they did or if they were looking for mine. So we helped a lot of teams throughout both seasons we were on. I think this is a challenge where I might not have tried to really help too many other people.
It's about knowing when to help a team, because I think teams helping teams has been a theme through Amazing Race history, but it's also knowing when to help a team versus not. But I know that this episode in particular has been very polarizing for a lot of viewers because of Robin and Chelsea so far. But I think in their defense, they're on this race to win. They don't have to, and they don't have to interact with the other teams. They don't have to make friends with the other teams if they don't want to. They're moms on a mission, and their whole point is to win the Amazing Race. So like, I know that edit can kind of be polarizing, but I also find it to be very respectable. They're just running the race and they're doing it on their own terms.
I think that that's really, I like that part about them because I feel like you sometimes in the race you have to, like, you are winning, you are competing for $1 million, and at the end of the day you can be friends with them at the end of the show.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, and there are times when I was super competitive, and there are times when I was like, oh well, we're not even racing, so it doesn't really, like, we can all hang out and be friends, and those are the times where it's a little different anyways, so I mean, we don't get to see all the times where they're just hanging out and being friends with people. We only see that.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's so interesting too, because it's like, so far we've only seen Robin and Chelsea racing at the back of the pack until they won this leg. You're never going to be helpful when you're racing at the back of the pack. And that's just the position they've been in. And I think Tyler and I always did offer a lot of help because it was easier when you're at the front, because it's like, you scratch my back, I scratch your back now, you maybe help me later. anytime we were in the back, we were like, no, we're not helping people. So it's interesting to like kind of show the edit they've been given, but also I try to remind myself of the circumstance that they've been racing from the middle to the back of the pack the whole time until now.
They've had to fight. They've had to fight to stay in the race. And I think that's probably why they're like, we don't want to help. We just want to feel better about this race, because they've probably been very anxious and stressed out by being in the back.
Well, it's also like when me and Brendan U-turned Colin and his dad, and everyone got so mad. Or was it Colin? I can't remember his name.
Oh, Dave and Connor.
Dave and Connor, right. Dave and Connor
Yes.
got so mad. And they were like, oh my God, you guys are so awful. It's like, no, we won the leg. And they ended up winning the season because they're a really good team. So, like, why wouldn't you use the U-turn? I always feel like I'm going to use it. Like,
right. It's there for a reason. Use it.
It's also fun.
Right.
Yeah, it is. It's fun to say you used a U-turn. I also loved the moment with Chelsea kind of talking about how she prepared for the race and how her and her daughter used to play all these like match it games. And I love seeing like real life preparation come into play on the race. And I loved this moment with Chelsea because she found it so quickly. I mean, that's what the edit made it seem like. And because of that, her and Robin were able to get their first place finish. And then I loved, if you follow Chelsea on Instagram, she posted this video of her daughter watching that segment and seeing herself on TV. And it was so freaking
Wait, I want to
cute.
See that.
It's so adorable. But I loved that moment. But on the flip side, at the back of the pack for the first time, I think, since the beginning of this race, but for this whole leg, Victor and Jocelyn, just like, they really started off the race strong, 2 back-to-back first place finishes, and then they just kind of the end of the pack. And they're really fighting it out for last with Morgan and Lena, who, as we know on the episode prior, they used the express pass for the delivering of the fruit. Now, again, it's so debatable, and I know this definitely has a lot of the Amazing Race fandom divided on whether it was a good move or not to use the roadblock, the express pass. What do you all think? I feel like this is the task where you use the express pass.
Yeah, like this is the task. But like, I hate when you're in the middle of something you can't figure it out. So, but it didn't feel like they were struggling. It felt like they used it because it was easy. Right.
Yeah.
I was baffled that they used it at the fruit station. Like, even if it was clogged and backed up, like everyone was saying it was, it's like you still had another task that day. You still knew there was probably going to then be a detour coming or something. So it's like, I just wouldn't pull the trigger that early in the episode. I would be like, let's see where we finish the fruit. And if we're at the back of the pack, use it on the next task, because then we're leapfrogging people. I think they could have, even if they'd used it on the vinyl thing, they still would have started this episode further up than they did. So
I think they would have been first. I really think if they would have used it at the detour, they would have been first going into the Keep on Racing.
Yeah. I just, it's the race brain that activated. I think they just got so stressed in that moment of having to wait, and like waiting on the race feels like an eternity. So I think because of that, they got really in their head, and they had it accessible that it just for them made sense to play it. And I will argue, I don't think it was necessarily a waste, because it did what it was supposed to. They expressed through that task. It just wasn't played correctly in the sense that like they were on the second departure of the boats. They still had 3 teams behind them who were going to have to wait too. It just didn't really make sense, but this would have been like a breeze to just play it and skip this roadblock entirely. But it didn't matter either way, because Morgan and Lena weren't eliminated. So again, express pass not technically wasted. And we sadly say goodbye to Jocelyn and Victor, who I feel like had so much potential. They were a really fun team to watch. What did y'all think about Jocelyn and Victor on this season?
I loved them. I thought they were so fun to watch. I thought, again, Phil being brutal, being like, from first to worst, you have been eliminated. I was like, Phil, they know they were in the back of the pack. Leave them alone.
Brutal.
I liked it too. I love that we got to, learn a little bit about their marriage and their relationship. And I thought it was great to like I thought it was cute. They work together and they're, married. It was really cute to see how they had that relationship. So I would have wanted to see them a little longer, but I know like I didn't want the sisters to go either. So
Yes.
I hate
It
when
was
it's
tough.
two teams you like at the end.
And it's
You're
like, which one do you root for? I think I was rooting for Morgan and Lena for the pure fact that they had the express pass. And I was like, I would hate it if they lost and they played it incorrectly. So I think that's probably why I was rooting for them. But it sucked because Jocelyn and Victor were such a fun team to watch. And they seemed to really enjoy. I loved how positive she was even running up to the pit stop, knowing that they were last. They had nothing but positive things to say about their experience and their time together on the show, which I thought was really sweet. But the placements for this leg, Robin and Chelsea first, followed by Steve and Anna Lee, Todd and Ashley in third, and Joe and Ian in fourth, and Robin, Korey in fifth, Liam and Yeremy in sixth, Andrea and Melina in seventh, Greg and John in eighth, Joel and Garrett in ninth, Lena and Morgan in 10th, and of course, again, we say goodbye to Jocelyn and Victor. I loved how it must have been that close to have that many teams on a pit stop together at once. I feel like you don't really see that very often. Yeah, that's also true.
It was right there, which is why I thought it was but it probably was that close, but then it was also because it was like right there. And I hate when you have like a bunch of teams on a pit stop together. It gives me anxiety because that means it's so close and you're just like, I could have been first, but 10 seconds later, I'm whatever, third. I hate that, but I remember too, like all of my times running to the pit stop when I would see other teams right there. It's a thing.
Yeah. I am curious how, I know they used to put like the timestamps on the episodes and they don't do it anymore, but I am curious like the spread of like how long that challenge took the different teams. Because in the episode, it felt like Steve and Anna Lee were there for a long time. And then some teams were there for it seemed like 5 minutes. So I would love to know the breakdown of times.
I think they put it at the start of the episode now, like when they leave the pit start.
Oh yeah.
I feel like so I will be curious to see too, just like how spaced out everyone was. On next week's episode. But next week, they are going to India. They're traveling 2,000 miles from Vietnam to India, where they must balance traditional pots on their heads while performing a folk dance and assemble a life-size 3-dimensional mural on The Amazing Race. I'm so excited that they're going to India. I think India always delivers great entertainment and stress and drama on any season of The Amazing Race. Do you guys have any predictions as to what might happen and who do you think will be the next team to be eliminated?
I don't know.
Can any of these teams dance? I'm curious. The thing on the pots on top of their head, that seems like it's a roadblock. So I'm assuming that could really trip some teams up if they choose the wrong person to do it. So
right.
James, you did that, right?
We both did the bottle dance. You did that too.
Your season was a roadblock. Our season was a
Ours
detour.
was a detour.
Oh, okay. So you both had to do it. That's right.
Yeah.
It's hard putting anything.
It is very hard.
First, it's balancing, but also having to know the movements while balancing it. It's like a double-edged sword. But yeah, I think that roadblock will definitely separate a lot of the teams. I'm assuming they're all traveling together. I don't think that they're going to have to book, flights to India, because in the previews that they put up on their YouTube channel, all the teams are pretty much, it's like a foot race the entire leg. They're always together at all these tasks. I feel like it's going to be so chaotic. And like even some people are trying to like break up commercials, and it looks like we might get a foot race to the pit stop. Whether it's for first or last, I don't know, but it looks like it's going to be dramatic, and I cannot wait.
Ooh, I love that.
I think this is the point in the race where it gets way more competitive. I think because of how variable the placements have been this season, almost every team has tasted what it feels like to be at the top. So now that they have that like little taste of what it's like to do really well in a leg, I feel like these teams are going to start to be a little more cutthroat with each other, maybe a little more bickery with their partners. So that makes it more entertaining for us as viewers. Maybe not them as teams, but
Well,
Makes it
also
more fun for
because
us.
they see how one team can go from like winning
Right.
and being front to losing. I feel like that's the biggest shock, because when you have one team that's just consistently winning, it's like, okay, well, they're gonna
Right.
win. But when you have a team going from first to last, it's like, oh, wow.
Well, anything can happen.
Yeah.
Literally. And what's
Literally.
even crazier is because there's 13 teams this season, there's still 10 teams in the race. And at this point, it would typically be 7, I would say, on a 11 team season. So like, it's not even necessarily the halfway point. There's so much race still left to go. And I love this cast. I feel like casting knocked it out of the park just because all the teams have like really rootable qualities. And a lot of them you can tell are fans of the show. I have no idea who's going to win. It's so hard to pick or predict who is going to take it.
Yeah, I can't believe it's like what you said. I was thinking the same thing. It's like, I can't believe they're sending 10 teams to India. Like that in and of itself, because you're exactly right what you said a few minutes ago. It's like India's always a hectic, crazy, fun episode to watch. And now we get to watch 10 teams like navigate it at the same time. That's why when you said who's going home, I'm like, there's always a lot of room for error in those kind of locations. And I feel like I have no idea who's going home next.
Especially tuk-tuks. That's the worst.
Yeah.
The tuk-tuks for me, the tuk-tuks are always like because I mean, I don't know. Do you guys talk about like other stuff in this show?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever
so,
you want to share.
How you have to get tuk-tuks for yourself and then one for your camera and sound, right? So like for me, that's always the hardest part, because it's like a 4-person car is fine, a 4-person vehicle, but when it's the 2 tuk-tuks, it's like, oh my, you would like, come here, go.
Yeah, when we were in India, it was overwhelming. It was very overwhelming.
It's aggressive.
Yeah.
We didn't get to go. We didn't go either season I was on. I was so bummed because I wanted to, and so it's like I'm like, no, I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Oh, no.
But that's crazy. I never knew you had to get 2.
Yeah.
And we were like in a populated area.
We lost one.
Yeah, that's what was so stressful, is they were like, don't worry, if you lose us, we can hear you. We had no idea where our camera and audio guy were. Because the traffic was so bad. And they even told us, like, just get in. We're going to be right behind you. We can still hear you. So just keep talking. They attach the GoPro really fast. Because they're like, okay, here. They hook up the GoPro and then like, go. And then you're like, okay. And then you just like, you hope you show up to the next task with your audio camera guy.
And
it's wild.
It's wild. And they drive so crazy. So like like there's a bus and 4 cars, and then like
and then
you go in between them.
Yeah, you're like, oh my god, why is this happening?
It was also great because Will 6'6", so he's like,
totally squished in those tuk-tuks. That's the best part.
I can't wait. Well, Korey and Rachel, thank you for joining us to recap this episode. It was so much fun having you both, and we miss you guys.
Oh, yes, we miss you. I miss all of us being on. I want to do it. You're making me want to do another Amazing Race.
I know.
Go back for season 40. Legends only.
Do you think they'll do like all winners or like legends or something? They have to do something.
They need to. They need
I feel like
all-star.
Yeah.
Rachel, they should do all top 3 finishers so that you and I can come back.
Right.
No, I agree. I agree with you, Korey, because sometimes I feel like the most interesting team doesn't win.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes like a lot of winners, and I'm saying this before I was even on the show, but like I feel like a lot of winners to viewers aren't memorable. And so I feel like an all winners season doesn't make sense. And a lot of couples aren't together. They're divorced now. So it's like, how do you cast it? I mean, I think you can. I think you absolutely could. But I think like a victory lap season where it's anyone who crossed the finish line would be so fun.
I'm in.
Yeah, but then I feel like they have there's so many teams to choose from now. And so
Really
maybe,
good
and you know what else
teams.
I really think, and I know nobody in this group is going to want to do it, but I think that they should split the people up. I think it shouldn't be just teams. I think they should do like you have to, Rachel has to race with James and Will races with Korey, like, where
That'd
it's
be
just
crazy.
it has to be crazy, something like that, because I love the team dynamic too, but it would be interesting to see it raced when it's 2 people you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of fans loved season 29 because
Yeah.
it was so different. And I think that would be really interesting. Like you show up to the pit start or the starting line with your original teammate, and then feels like psych, like you've already run this race once, and now you have to choose a new partner. Like that would be wild and so fun to see.
Do you think that they would it be more interesting to let the people choose their own partners, or for production to choose?
I think it'd be interesting for people to choose their own.
My gosh.
I think so too.
Oh my
That
god.
would be a crazy first episode.
I
Because
would
also,
need-
like, what if you don't get the person you want to pick?
Right.
You get stuck with some people.
Yeah. Oh god, that would be great.
It would be wild. Well, we can keep dreaming and manifesting, and we'll see what the future holds.
Hey, you know, Colin and Christy told me that's what they did to get on their All-Star season.
I believe it.
I just want all four of us to be on the same one.
Yeah.
I think it would be so fun.
It would be
Yeah,
so
challenge USA 3. Come on, we're ready.
Oh,
all four. Of us.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't know about the challenge. We're talking about Amazing Race here.
I want to keep my knees and my back healthy.
Oh my gosh. Well, thanks again, y'all, for joining us for this recap. And to everyone who was in the live chat, we always appreciate your thoughts and your opinions on the show as well, and keeping the conversation going. And we'll be back next week to recap episode 5. And I'm actually excited. I'm going to New York this week, and I'm going to watch the episode with Greg, Morgan, Korey, Joe, and Ian. So I'm going to meet some of the new racers, which will be great.
That's so
But
fun.
in the meantime, have a great week, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.